All right, you know what? I actually would like to just start with just a moment of prayer, just to kind of get myself centered to talk to you guys. So if you'll join me, that would be great. God, thank you so much for bringing us here to this amazing place, all of these wonderful women, and getting to hang out in your lake house. It's pretty cool. Please just fill me with your light and give me the right words of encouragement and love to touch these women. And if my message can help even one person, then I know I've done a great job in your name. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so I'm going to talk, and it says nutrition on there, but really my message is about fitness, nutrition, and recovery, and because they're interwoven for me. I've been coming to AA and other programs since I was 20 years old. I am 47 years old, and this past month I celebrated 1 year of sobriety. I've had years, years of sobriety and relapsed, and years of sobriety and relapsed. But then after a certain amount of time, I couldn't even put together a year. I just kept struggling and struggling and struggling. So I want to share with you guys kind of what happened for me this last year, and it's just really interesting to me that it coincided with a fitness thing, and it is what it helped everything click for me. So this is a kind of an interesting story. I was in a bad spot. I had relapsed in February of the year I got sober. I'd had a really negative experience at work where my integrity was questioned, and I had to go through a hearing. It was a legal thing, and a client had kind of come after us. And so it was just really demoralizing, and I used it as an excuse to drink, plain and simple. And, but drinking for me wasn't like going out to the bars and getting crazy. I would buy a couple boxes of wine and hide away when my husband wasn't around, and how not fun, right? So it's exhausting. It's exhausting and it's awful. And the hangovers in your 40s, holy shit, no good. So, and then I thought, I didn't even want to do it, but then I started taking, and I had taken Benadryl for years to help me sleep, but I started abusing Benadryl until ultimately that's all I was doing was every night, and I wouldn't use all day, but at night, I just looking forward to those stupid pills. And I hated what they did to me. I hated how they made me feel. It's messed up, but we just keep doing it because that's all we know to do to kind of soothe ourselves. And so I had this woman that I had met in California who actually just celebrated 12 years of sobriety and is now one of my best friends. But I had met her. She was this incredible Zumba instructor down in California, and I had kind of started stalking her because every time I go to California, which is where my parents were, I'd go to her classes because I was I just thought she was the most amazing person. And so she invited me to be involved in this online fitness challenge group where you do these fitness videos, and I said no, I don't want to do that. And I was certainly significantly heavier than I am now. I was going on a big vacation. I knew I was going to be gaining weight, but I don't know. I was just in such a bad frame of mind, and I wasn't feeling good, so I said no. And about a month later, she asked me again, and I said yes. And I got involved with that, and I was still using the whole time. But I began to take care of myself, and I began to follow the instructions of what I was being told to do in this group and the program I was using. And so I began to get results, and I began to feel better, and I began sharing with the women in that group. And mind you, this whole time I did have a sponsor. Where are you, Angela? I don't even know where she is, but I had a sponsor that I wasn't being honest with at all. I told her everything was fine, I'm doing great, look at me, but I wasn't. And so anyway, there came this point, and this is, I even brought the picture because I've talked about it before. It's gonna make me emotional, even just looking at it. I was home with my husband one day, and I had a picture. This woman's name is Lauren, and I love Lauren. I just wait till you see her picture. And I was so impressed by this picture that I showed my husband. Now look at this woman. Hello, look at this, right? I mean, ripped, amazing woman, right? Not the same body, right? But I showed it to my husband, and he looked at it, and he said, well, you're gonna look like that, right? So, what would my normal reaction would have been the typical, what, you don't love me the way I am, and fuck you, and blah, 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 and you expect me to look like that. And, you know, the normal reactions I would have, you know, didn't come to me that day. And I looked at it, and I just kind of laughed, and it was like, yeah, you know. And I left the house, like I went to work, and I wasn't mad. There was nothing, I wasn't pissed, but I was driving to work, and I even remember the exact intersection where I was. And I thought about my reaction, and the reason, it was like a lightning bolt out of the sky, it hit me. It was like the reason that I laughed was because I didn't believe that I could do that. I don't know why that was so meaningful for me, but it truly was. It was like an earth-shattering realization that I didn't believe I could look like this. I didn't believe that this was for me. This was for somebody else, some other amazing woman, not me. And so once that realization hit me, it only took a matter of weeks for me to understand that that exact same concept applied to my recovery. And I didn't need to keep thinking that this wasn't for me, that recovery was for somebody else, you know, and that I really truly believe that that's what kept me from progressing in recovery, you know, was that I never really truly believed that I could live a happy, sober life, and that it was available to me, and God did want to see me do that, and God would help me with that. So, enough of the crying. But I share that with you because I have a few tips, and the tips I want to share are about, you know, what I've learned in fitness that has crossed over into my recovery. They're intertwined, like I said. So, and the first one is believe, right? You have to believe, and that's what I saw was I had to believe it was possible. Same thing in recovery, and I think I've pressed to that point enough. But if you don't have that belief, you have to find it, and that just happened to be the way that I found it. And I am so eternally grateful that that happened. And I'll tell you, within just a couple weeks after that realization, one night I didn't take the pills. I thought, I feel good, I'm happy, I was excited about what was going on in my life, and I just didn't take the pills, and I've never taken the pills again since then. So it was like I was not taking care, it's hard to state. Even though I was taking care of myself physically with changing my diet and doing the exercise and all that stuff, I had still been using. But the belief helped me move to a point where I was ready to let go of the using. And I'm just super glad that happened. So my second point is, my second suggestion is that we have to be coachable. And I think, and that's, you know, fitness or recovery, you have to be willing to have an open mind and hear what other people have to say and say, you know what, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I, you know, don't know shit. Maybe I should actually listen to these people who've actually been successful and gotten amazing results. You know, I think we tend to, as addicts and alcoholics, we tend to always think that our way is the better way. You know, we won't say it out loud, but we're thinking, well, that may work for that person, but not me. Same thought process, right? Well, I know a better way, you know. And so, and I'd been that way forever, you know, thinking I knew, you know, that this food or that exercise or whatever, like, I know what's best for me. Well, obviously, if I was 30 pounds overweight, I probably didn't know what was best for me. Same thing in my recovery, you know, yes, I read the steps, yes, I could probably recite them out loud, but certain parts of them, you know, you take parts of steps, but you don't take other parts of the steps, and I had been selective about what I was doing in recovery. And so I found that if I, actually sat down and read the book, I had something to learn. And if I actually worked the steps with the sponsor, it actually started to work in my life, amazingly so. And so being coachable was an incredibly important factor for me, and just being willing to listen to other people. And the sponsor that I had at the time, Angela, that I mentioned, I ended up getting a different sponsor, but it wasn't because we had a falling out or anything like that. It just, at that time, it was better for me to find a different sponsor. I'd been lying to Angela. I apologized and made amends. We agreed, I was going to find another sponsor. And I moved on to my sponsor, Karen, back there, who's actually been the greatest blessing for me as a sponsor, and has just taken me through the steps, in the way that she went through them, and it's been really good for me. So, love you, Karen. Thank you. So she's my coach, right? Okay. So, sponsor coach. My other point, or my third point, is be consistent. And, in exercise, a lot of times I think we want to get on board, and we were like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go 5 days a week. I'm going to do, 2 hours a day, and I'm going to do it. And then we get burned out, or we don't, we don't follow a plan or whatever. We just go in gung-ho and just burn ourselves out, and then we'd say, well, forget it, I didn't really want to do that anyway. And or I think in recovery, what happens a lot of times is that, and I know for me for sure, was I would say, oh God, not the 4th step. Oh God, and you just envision like, oh, I'm gonna have to sit down for weeks on end. I'm just gonna have to write out these huge lists, and it's gonna be this drudgery. It's gonna take forever. And so it never gets done, because the dread of doing it is so great. And so what I found this time in being coachable and, working through this is that each morning I would get up and I'd work on whatever step I was on for 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Amazingly, an entire 4th and 5th step ultimately got completed, but it was just that consistent work each day over time, and it all added up to a great result. And the same thing with fitness too. You do a little bit each day as directed by your coach or sponsor or whoever, but you do what you're told each day, that little bit, and all of those little bits going in the right direction add up to a great result. And so that was a huge realization for me in recovery as well. Nothing needed to be insurmountable. I could take little bites and make my way there. So, and then my last point is to never give up, because man, it's easy to throw in the towel. And over this past year, I don't even know why I'm crying. Over this past year, I had no clue. Over this past year, I don't know about you guys, but when I was drinking and using, I could be going along for a while and maybe have a little bit of sobriety or, be feeling okay. But if something came up, something went wrong in my life, something just didn't go the way I wanted it to, I just say, oh, screw it, I'm going to get drunk. You never did that. I know, Julie. Yeah, I mean, just I'm gonna get drunk, or my husband would do something, well, screw him, I'm gonna get drunk, I'll show you, Yeah. And you'd start at ground zero, and I would give up. I mean, to me, that was giving up every time, on recovery, because I would just say, that's it. Same thing with, healthy eating or a workout plan. I think, we get to a certain point where like, well, I haven't lost 5 pounds in 2 days, so I think I'm just gonna give up. Or, there are so many different plans and diets and all these things, but I think the vast majority of diets and plans, they'll work if we didn't give up on them, if we consistently did what we were supposed to do on them. and actually followed through. But I think where we fall down is we don't follow through and we give up. And so with recovery over this past year, you know, and I've been working on my fitness and my health too at the same time. I found that with alcohol, when something goes wrong, I don't have that feeling of like, oh, screw it, I got to do something anymore. Like, I've figured out that you don't have to go down to ground zero every time something happens in life. And I don't even know if this is making sense, but it makes sense to me that instead of that black and white thinking that, I mean, I'm terrible about, and I think with food too, we say, well, I blew it, so I might as well just eat like crap the rest of the week, and then next Monday I'll start again, you know, same thing. We don't have to have that black and white thinking about it. And I think my alcoholism really conditioned me to be a black and white thinker about everything. And so, you know, I've been able to take what I've learned in fitness and really apply it to my recovery, and vice versa. I use the principles. I honestly feel like many of the principles of recovery and the ones I'm talking about with fitness, they really are the principles of success, of doing anything in life. You know, that you have to be consistent, you have to be coachable, you have to be open. I mean, all of those things are the basis of true success. But I feel like in recovery, we have to, I mean, the added thing to me, I think, is that we have to admit that we're powerless and that we need help, and that we're ultimately not in control. So when it comes to a stressful situation for me nowadays, you know, instead of just throwing in the towel and going to extremes, I can back off and say, wow, you know, this has been a really stressful thing, and I'm eating a cheeseburger and french fries, and instead of berating myself or saying, you know, screw it, I'm just gonna stop taking care of myself because look, I can't do it, what a loser I am, because that's what I used to do. I say, what's wrong? What's going on with me? Why am I feeling like I need to, you know, eat a half dozen cookies? I almost said a dozen. Maybe. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to, I'm better at stepping back and looking at why I'm making the choices that I'm making, instead of just selling myself out and giving up on myself. And I think we can take, you know, that same principle into recovery and just say, why am I thinking about drinking? Why am I, you know, pausing and thinking about calling this unhealthy person that I don't really want to have anything to do? Why am I looking at these other men when I'm married? You know, I mean, stuff like, I'm serious. And for me, that's a very serious one. If my mind is floating into those unhealthy areas, instead of just saying, God, I'm an awful person, and I should, and throwing in the towel, I say, what's going on with me? And then start to work on that, talk to my sponsor, talk to other guides, you know, that I have in my life, and get that stuff figured out. So those are my, I don't know what to call them, my tips, I guess, on fitness and recovery and the things that I've learned in the past year. And a couple of other just quick tips I have on, I guess, nutrition. The nutritional changes that I've made here are some of the basic things that I usually suggest to people, is that you should have a plan. Always have a plan, because I think we go into fitness and nutrition ventures a lot of times without anything. We just say, oh boy, I want to lose 10 pounds. And then, you know, it's like, well, I'm going to try to eat healthy. You know, I'm trying to make healthy choices. But you don't actually have a specific plan of action for yourself, or you haven't set a goal to say, okay, over the next 8 weeks, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to lose 5 pounds, or I just want to increase my energy, or I want my pants to feel looser. Like, you have to set some sort of goal and then have a plan for achieving it, and check in with yourself each week, or an accountability partner, or, you know, somebody, to make sure that you are following your plan and achieving the goals that you're after. Because if you just leave things to chance, chances are you're not going to reach that goal, you know. So you really I think as an alcoholic and an addict, I'm not really good at that sometimes, you know. Sometimes I really fail at that. So, you know, I use things, oftentimes tools. I use fitness programs, video fitness programs, and they're 60 days, 90 days, 30 days, you know. So I plan off of those, and that enables me to have a structured system, right? All I have to do is look, and it says do this. I say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then, you know, there's a nutrition component with it too. So I'm able to just kind of follow something like that. One of my other top tips is be prepared. Because again, if you get home from work and it's 5:30 and you're freaking starving, and you get home and you see your kid's bag of chips or cookies or whatever on the kitchen counter, where are you gonna die for, right? I'm so stressed out. Oh, those cookies, right? You know, oh, I deserve it. I'm blah, 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 you know, and before you know it, you know, you've eaten 5 cookies, and then your hunger is screwed up. So like you're weird for dinner, you know, you don't know what to eat, and then you say, well, screw it, I already ate the cookies, so I'm gonna eat a burger or whatever, you know. I mean, if we don't have healthy choices prepared and ready for us to grab onto, then it's a danger zone if you have goals for health and fitness. So one of the things I do is I try to prepare a number of proteins on Sunday, and have fresh vegetables, even like semi-steamed or ready, so that when I get home at night, I'm able to make a meal. It's like heat and eat, you know, like you can just heat it up and go, and I don't have to say, oh my God, I have to cook for an hour and a half and I don't have time, and in the meantime I'm gonna eat, you know, 500 calories of chips or whatever, you know. Like you can just have the food available, or even fresh cut vegetables. Like if you like peppers and carrots and celery and stuff like that, you know how you buy it and you put it in the refrigerator and you're like, I'm gonna eat produce, I'm gonna eat all this healthy stuff this week. And then at the end of the week, you take it out and you throw it away because it's gone bad because you never took it out. When you buy it, don't even put it away until you've chopped up some of it, prepared it in baggies, like have it in the baggies, or containers or whatever. Have it ready so you can reach in there and pull it out and just like eat it, right? And have it ready to go. Don't slow yourself down in that process by not having stuff prepared. Okay, but if you do run into that little situation, I can tell you a little bit later, just cut up all those vegetables and put them on a tray with some olive oil and roast them and eat them, because that's another way to get rid of the ones that you think are getting hinky at the end of the week. But so having stuff prepared is definitely key. So I think I've talked long enough. I think I'm close to the end of my time, but I hope that's helpful.